Good morning, Big Square, road2road.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee. I mean, I'm on tea these days. It is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the cleanse, feeling great. Almost ready to move on to smoothies after Sunday. um, yeah, everybody's doing well, so I hear. Not every, you don't know really, but most people are doing really well. The first 3 or 4 days are the tough ones. Because your body's detoxing and your body's not used to, your body's used to processing pizza and beer and burgers. So, yeah, when they put real food in there, like fruits and vegetables, it's kind of scary. Mine hasn't been that bad this year. Some people are reporting headaches and stomach aches, and that's normal. Yeah, when your body's accustomed to shitty food and alcohol and caffeine and all that, it takes a while to get rid of it. But hey, hang in there, guys. You're doing great. Keep it up. What else is doing great? Silver was. Silver was doing great. Silver is hysterical. I've been analyzing silver for 20 years. I just had that price chart up. But you can, look at manipulation, up, down, and sideways. This is all being done out of the Fed and the Treasury, the Exchange Stabilization Fund. It is imperative, 100% imperative to control the price of gold and silver and cryptos these days. Yes, they are in there as well. Might be other people associated with them. Obviously, the computer programmers who set up the original programs out of the Fed Boston probably are in the cryptos because they see it as a very large part of the future going forward. Cryptocurrencies. Amazing talk from an insider. I'm going to add that to the Friday road trip for the private road, but someone you wouldn't even expect saying, well, yeah, cryptos. Get your hands on some cryptos. I'm going to talk about that today in the Friday road trip. But silver, I want to show you how long I've been in silver. There you go. 20 years of analyzing. When did you might look at this chart and say, Bix, when were you most scared of your investment? It was right here. In 2011, when the price of silver went from January to, April 1st. It jumped from $20 to $50. Why was I scared? Because I knew it was a manipulation. I run out of the Obama White House with a guy named Bill Daley of JP Morgan. That was Obama's chief of staff appointed to control the price of silver. They ran it up, and that started the bear market. It's such bullshit. It is rigged 100% every day in every trade. Get your hands on some silver. These guys are going to jail soon. That'd be Blythe Masters and Jamie Dimon. But we will see, right? It hasn't happened yet, and I've been waiting 20 years. Back in the early days, I didn't know who was doing it. I thought it was, Goldman Sachs was the big name thrown around, and Bear Stearns, which they were in on it as well, but we didn't know, the GATA folks didn't know, it was all being controlled out of the U.S. government to control the price, the value of money. In the meantime, they were printing unlimited amounts of money and not telling anybody about it, as in infinity. It is shocking. I mean, I love Catherine Austin Fitts and her guy who's figured out that, there's 30 trillion that hasn't been accounted for. That on the face of it should shock the world. But that doesn't even scratch the surface. There is no limit on the amount they print. No limit, as in no limit, zero limit. All they have to do is control the figures, control the prices, and I'll get to that in a second. Not only of silver and gold, but everything, of stocks, of bonds. It's all a game. The best analogy is watch The Wizard of Oz, and you got the little man behind the curtain of the first computer pulling on levers and all that. That was Alan Greenspan in the 1960s and 70s when he worked for Arthur Burns and President Ford. I mean, Greenspan, the world's largest gold bug. Everybody's like, it couldn't be Greenspan. He was the head of the Fed. Exactly, he was the head of the Fed. Who more likely to control the value of money than the head of the Fed? And yes, he lied the whole time. And no, I'm not a Greenspan fanboy. I'm just telling you guys what happened. Greenspan invented the first computer programs. He's the guy who blamed himself for Y2K. Programming 2 digits instead of 4. You think he stopped programming in the 1970s? No. Why do you think he was put as head of the Fed? He controlled the entire system with computer programs. That goes on today through the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And I've been saying it for years. A click of a mouse ends the game. Now, a lot of people don't agree with me. A lot of people think because they've been lulled into, well, we've had this, manipulation go on for 100 years. Why would it stop today? Two reasons. One, the bad guys are being taken down. And people say, well, maybe. You look at the Q stuff, look at the Trump stuff, and, is it true? Could be. Yes, Trump continues the market rigging as we speak. But number two, and more important, is the bad guys need to end the system and want to end the system. Absolutely, both sides want this system to end. The bad guys, because they know it's unsustainable, and literally they are failing left and right. They cannot win the game if they're not allowed to cheat. And no longer are they allowed to cheat. Just look at what's happening to Deutsche Bank. Every 2 minutes, a new investigation into crimes they've been committing for decades. Hundreds of years, probably since the invention of Deutsche Bank. I don't know when Deutsche Bank, probably early 1900s. I don't know. But yeah, it is crazy out there. And it's all coming to a point. And I talk about the point on Patreon channel. I've put 2 videos up on the day, my timeline. And I don't see anything that is contradicting it these days. Not at all. And also on the private road. Everything on Patreon is on the private road. And then today, I will be posting an update to those 2 videos, the timeline, because I have new information that I'll get into. So join the private road. There you go. And let's talk about these guys, the cryptos. What is going on with the cryptos? Da, da, da. It's a hodler's game. Only hodlers win. And for so many reasons. The biggest reason is all these exchanges are about to shut down. Like every single one of them. None of them, not one of them, hold the cryptos that they tell their customers that the customers own. Not one of them. Not Coinbase. Not Gemini. None of them. And they should be upfront and tell you that. Most people know it anyway. Because they don't need to. It's a fractional reserve system. All you need is the amount to cover withdrawals. That works fine and dandy until you're someone like Mt. Gox. It was not a hack. That's the stupidest story ever propagated out there. It was the fact that Mt. Gox was just like every other exchange. They didn't have the coins. They make money on the buy-sell percentages that they make, on the fees they charge. So why wouldn't they propagate as much trading as you want? Go ahead. It's when people start pulling the cryptos out that all of a sudden the emperor has no clothes. That's what happened to Mt. Gox. And I believe it was a good guy attempt to blow that away. And that's why it still hasn't been settled. And that's why they still have my 1 Bitcoin. Yes, I have 1 Bitcoin in Mt. Gox. And I did file the paperwork, and I should be getting something. Now, after all this bullshit, all the fees have been taken out, I don't think I'll get much. Especially because they've set the price at $400, at least for the bankruptcy part of it. Now it comes to giving back whatever's left, and there's not much left, I don't think. At least not, the $10,000 Bitcoin. And then all the forks. Where's all the forks? Great question. All they're talking about is Bitcoin Cash. Well, there's been a lot more forks than that. Do the claimants, which I am one of, get all the forks as well? I don't know. And it's so controlled by the good guys. Absolutely. That's why it has taken so long. I don't even know how long it's been. 5 years now? Something like that. Something crazy. Anyway, so yeah, cryptos are rigged. People ask me, well, the big traders are saying it's going to it's got to go down to the 8,500 before it can move up again. Why not go to 0? Why not go to 1 million? You don't know what they're going to do. It's a click of a mouse. How easy is it to click a mouse? And people say, well, it costs too much to rig it lower. If you create money out of thin air and you have unlimited funds, which the US government does, there is no money needed. Nothing. You can put Bitcoin price to zero on the exchanges. Doesn't mean people are going to get Bitcoin in their hands. All you do is click a mouse. It's crazy. It's crazy. And speaking of crazy, let's talk about something near and dear to my heart, an RV. Now, for all you guys in cryptos, you probably have this one purchase. You're thinking, oh, this is what I want to buy. This is what I want to buy. For me, it's an RV. Pure craziness. I know everybody who buys an RV says, oh my God, why'd I buy an RV? But I've always wanted an RV. I want an RV. And if I'm going to one day have enough money to spend on whatever I want to get a really cool RV, a four-wheel drive RV with solar panels, and it's basically a house that moves down the road. So I have been in that market, looking at that market. Not that I'm going to buy it today. It will probably be a year or so before I buy it. But I am interested in the RV market, and here's what happened. GDP numbers come out. And I'm just going to read this Zero Hedge article. This is what Americans spent the most money on in the second quarter. As reported earlier, second quarter GDP printed far stronger than expected. Well, that's expected by who? You knew Trump was going to do that. He just say, I want all the numbers across the board increase. It's a lie. Just like everything else is a lie. With U.S. households going on an all-out spending spree and at 2.85% are contributing 138% of the bottom line of 2.1 GDP print. Personal consumption soared at an annualized 4.3%, the strongest print going back to 2014. So, as we always do, we decided to take a look at what Americans supposedly spent money on in the second quarter to find the source of this unexpected spending splurge. What we found is that, unlike most quarters, where there was a decline in spending in at least one category, in the second quarter, spending actually increased in every single category across goods and services. Complete lie. It is a complete lie. There is no great economy. That's a talking point. Now, traditionally, we would expect that healthcare, a legacy of America's aging demographic and the Obamacare tax, to provide the bulk of the upside, but in the second quarter we found only a relatively modest contribution, with a spending increase of only $15.3 billion compared to the first quarter. Another surprise was at a time when auto dealers continued to report declining auto sales on a year-by-year basis, spending on motor vehicles and parts somehow increased by $19.7 billion. So all the manufacturers are saying, oh, sales are going down. Down, 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 down. Yet the government says, oh, by the way, it increased by $19.7 billion. That is blatant lying, but it gets worse. But what was the main driver of spending in the second quarter? Well, for some inexplicable reason, in second quarter, American consumer was scrambling to buy recreational vehicles. Are you kidding me? This is farcical. Here's the breakdown of all categories that constituted personal consumption in the second quarter. And this is the growth in billions of dollars. Recreational goods and vehicles, looks like $22 billion increase. Regular readers will recall that this is not the first time this particular category emerged as a surprise top spending category, both 2 and 3 years ago. In first quarter of 2016 and then again, first quarter 2017, Americans inexplicably again surged on RVs. If it wasn't for inexplicable surge on RVs, GDP would have missed expectations of a 1.8% increase. To be sure, the farcical surge in RV purchases sure would explain why the housing recovery, overdue by 5 years, still fails to materialize. Yet, what is most perplexing in light of the data is that just 2 days ago reported that the RV industry has taken a massive blow from President Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum and other retaliatory duties on thousands of Chinese-made RV parts, from electronics to LED lights to vinyl. Indeed, at the macro bottom-up level, domestic shipments of RVs to dealers plummeted in the first 5 months of this year. Plummeted 22%, compared to the same period last year after dropping 4% in 2008, according to the Recreational Vehicle Association. And we added, quote, the RV industry's crisis shows how Trump's trade war has backfired, hurting the industry he promised to protect. Tariff-related price hikes have forced RV manufacturers to pass on costs to dealerships, which in turn the American consumer bears the brunt of the tariff, and has slowed sales at dealers who are cutting orders and laying off workers. So we got 22% drop in sales. They're cutting off workers, they're laying off workers, they're cutting orders, and yet for some reason the US announces 22% increase. Or $22 billion increase. It's not just us who pointed out the RV sales. Michael Hicks, a Ball State University economist who tracks the industry, warned that the collapse of RV shipments could indicate a wider economic downturn. Hicks said shipments had fallen sharply just before the last 3 recessions. Quote, the RV industry is a great bellwether of the economy, said Hicks, because the vehicles are an expensive and discretionary purchase easily delayed by customers who start to worry about their financial stability. The paradox. While RV sales are crashing, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, i.e. the government, used this very data set to represent that the U.S. customer is not only alive and well, but spending more than at any time in the last 5 years. It is stupid. The whole thing is stupid. Surely, when looking at such grotesque data manipulation, China can only stand in silent awe and watch as the U.S. shows the world how data fudging is truly done. When the president has a political axe to grind and will steamroll any and all data just to prove that America is great again. Great article and so terrifyingly true. There is no recovery. It's all bullshit. Even the tiniest uptick is caused by manipulation, 100%, every day in every trade. It is insane. So, on the brink of insanity, I am going to add to this report today. This is the private road Ruda's timeline. There's 2 posts here, 2 videos. It gives the time and date on number 2. And I have more information now, so I'm going to do another 3rd video that will be just on the private road. This is Bix Weir. If you want to join the private road, hit subscribe today, and you will be sent 1 Veritasium token and a silver Ruda coin, the coolest coin ever invented. And mind you, in the long run, all these tokens I've given away, from Bitcoin to Litecoin to Veritasium to Theta, will all pay for their memberships over time. I had a guy send me an email the other day saying, oh my God, I just found $30 with the Bitcoin that you had sent me a while back. It's now worth $400. Awesome. That's the way to do it. So, very exciting. If you want to join the private road, jump in today. Well, I'm still giving away Very. Very jumps over $20. I think it'll happen soon. I'm not giving away Very anymore. Anyway, this is BigSquareRoadRoo.com. Talk to you later.